Hi, I'm Chris, founder of Midwest CPA, and if you're watching this video, you're probably wondering, how do we price QoE and financial due diligence work? The first consideration when determining how we're going to price your quality of earnings project is how complicated the business that you're buying is. One of those considerations is what industry you're purchasing in. Some industries require more complicated accounting processes, such as percent completion, more difficult revenue recognition policies, inventory tracking, project tracking. All these things will come into play when we're determining how much work we're going to have to put into to do due diligence on that deal. Another consideration is the number of locations or entities that you're purchasing with your business. If you're buying a restaurant chain, for example, and there's 10 locations, that's going to add a lot more complexity for our analysis. We're going to have to go location by location when we're analyzing the deal. In some cases, too, you might be carving out the entity that you're purchasing from a much larger business. This also adds complexity to our processes because we need to decipher what expenses and revenues are for the business that you're purchasing versus the total company that you're taking that entity out of. The final consideration is the size of the business you're purchasing. Larger companies have more going on, more employees, more revenue sources, and it's going to take more time for us to sort through that information versus smaller deals. When you're budgeting for your QoE, you can use these 3 general levels as a good guide to determine how much you're going to have to pay. If you're buying a business that's under $2.5 million in revenue, is a relatively simple industry, and isn't multi-location, you're generally going to be somewhere between $12,000 and $15,000 for a quality of earnings analysis. If the business you're purchasing is larger than $2.5 million but still under $10 million enterprise value, you're generally going to end up falling somewhere between $14,000 and $20,000 to $23,000, depending on the complexity factors that I mentioned earlier. Finally, if you're buying a business that's over $10 million enterprise value, we're going to have to go through and build a custom scope with you, and you're usually going to be $25,000+ for that type of project. At Midwest CPA, we do deals like this all the time, so we have a scope that we think works really, really well for small business acquisitions. For that reason, we don't necessarily have a light option of our quality of earnings analysis, but there are certain parts of our processes that we might be able to do more quickly if it's a smaller or more simple acquisition. The reason we still want to check those boxes and make sure they are included in the scope is that we don't want to skip a part of the process that could be key and result in you buying a business that you ultimately regret purchasing. Another common question we get is, do we operate off of a fixed fee or an hourly rate? At Midwest CPA, we always charge a fixed rate for our quality of earnings engagements. This way you know exactly what you're going to be paying and you don't have any surprise bills throughout the process. You also know that you have a partner in your corner that you can go to without having to worry about getting a surprise bill in the mail just for a quick phone call to answer a question that you have. Now that you know how we price our services at Midwest CPA, why should you choose to work with us for your next acquisition? Historically, if you were going to get a quality of earnings report, you can either go to a big firm and spend tens and tens of thousands of dollars for a report that you knew you'd be able to rely on, or you can go to a small shop, get a really cheap QoE, and roll the dice that they were going to catch everything in diligence. At Midwest CPA, we blend these 2 options, where we bring the quality that you would get at a large firm at a price point that works much better for independent sponsors and search funds. Our niche is small business acquisitions and mergers, which means we're doing deals like this all the time, and we'll know exactly how to guide you through the process. If you want help with your small business acquisition, book a call with us today and see how we can help.